In this InDesign tutorial, I'm going to go over an advanced way of organizing lots of data by using tables. Okay, so here in InDesign, I'm going to go to File and Open. In Chapter 8, Folder 1, I have this simple tables design, and all I did was type out the information. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way for a second and show you how I did this. I would take my type tool, click and drag, and I'm going to go with these main categories: comic, title, then I hit the tab key. I typed in main character, hit the tab key, main villain, tab key, cover price, tab key, current, let's see, 2 R's, current issue. Okay, when I was done with that line, I simply hit return and I started typing in the information. So the first comic title was G.I. Joe. I hit my tab key. The main character is Snake Eyes. Hit my tab key. The main villain is Cobra Commander. Notice how they don't even line up. Doesn't matter. Hit my tab key. Cover price is $3.50, let's say. Hit my tab key, and the current issue is number 275. Okay, we'll do one more line. Hit return, and I typed in the next 5 bits of information. So Uncanny X-Men. Hit my tab key. The main character will be Wolverine. Hit tab. The main villain is Magneto. Hit tab. Cover price, let's say it's $4.50. Hit tab. And the current issue is number 150. Make it up. Okay, notice how none of these are kind of lining up, but I did hit tab after every single entry. Okay, that's the main key. Every time I finish a line, I hit return. So what you do with tables is you highlight the text that you want to put into a table, and you go to Table menu, Convert Text to Table. So the way it's going to separate columns of information is based on every time I hit the tab key. The way it's going to separate every row of information is every time I hit the return key. It's called a paragraph return. Watch what happens to all this text that is not lined up. Look at that. Everything lines up. That is awesome. Tables are edited with your type tool. So I'm on my type. I can go down to the bottom right corner of the table and pull that apart a little more. I can highlight all my text and center it right up here. Okay, right over here, I can center it from top to bottom. And there's a nice little flow chart. Okay, easy to read all the information. So your goal is to try it out on this one and then come up with your own table design. If you're in my class, you're going to see plenty of examples of other students' work and how they laid out tables. But I want to do this tutorial to show you how it works. Now, keep in mind, I've got 10 different categories. I'm going to have a lot of room. I'm going to need a lot of room. And what I'm going to do here is zoom out right there. I'm going to go to File menu, Document Setup. And instead of this being a small 8.5 by 11, I'm going to highlight the width and type 18 inches wide. And the height is 24 inches, like a big poster, like that. Okay, because I'm going to need room. So I'm going to push this right up here, and I'm going to pull the bottom right corner of my text frame all the way down. I'm going to need room to do all these categories. So again, I'll take my type tool, highlight all my type, and I go to Table menu, Convert Text to Table. Every column is separated by a tab. Every row is separated by a paragraph or a return. So I click OK. Now that, when I zoom in, is really tight. The cells are really, really small. I could do something definitely better with this. So what I'm going to do is just zoom out one more time. And I really don't need all this room. These categories are so wide. So with my type tool, I'm going to click. And now I can go into this bottom right corner and pull that down. There we go. Let's scroll down here and really stretch out this table here. Like that. Okay, now what I can do is I want to highlight all the types. So I'm just going to click in one of these cells and hit Command A. Of course, that only selects the one cell. So what you can do is start up here and click and drag through all of your cells. Okay, instead of times, I'm going to highlight the name of the font and type ARI. We'll go with Arial Bold. Maybe I want my fonts to be, let's say 16 points. Heck, let's go 18 points. I want to center them in all the cells. And I want to center them from top to bottom. Like that. Give it a nice layout like that. Okay, what I want to do now is look at some of the cells. Like this is getting really tight right here. This is getting tight. So I want to go through and start to add a little more space here. So with my type tool, I'm going to highlight the space right there. Hit delete and return. Hit delete and return. And between Amazing and Spider-Man, just kind of shorten those up a little bit. Moon Knight is pretty short. I'll work with that. But all of these names, I want to really bring these down. So Cobra, let's go Cobra Commander. The Marauders, Victor, Von Doom. Peter Parker, that's pretty short. That's good. Okay, I got enough room on all those. All right, cover price. I don't need this much room around this skinny little entry. So with my type tool, I can hover over line and squeeze that category down a little bit tighter. I can squeeze this category down a little bit tighter. In fact, I'm going to highlight between the words cover and price, delete the space and hit return, delete the space between current and issue and hit return. That way I've got a little thinner categories. I could squeeze these down a little more right there. Don't need a lot of room. Bring that down a little bit. Bring this down a little bit. Okay, this is looking good. But what I also want to do is show people an image of these characters. Who is Snake Eyes? Who is Rogue? So I'm going to click right here. Okay, if I hover right at the top, I can click. That will select an entire column. If I hover over here, I can click and select an entire row. Any one of these. And if I go to the very upper left corner and I get a diagonal arrow, I can select the whole table. So with that whole table selected, I go to Table menu, Insert, a column of information. And I want that column, I just want one, to be inserted on the left side of the table. One column on the left. There we go. Cool. So now, all of these are empty cells. So I can click in there and hit Command D for a document. And I'll go down to Chapter 8 Tables. And the first one was G.I. Joe, who should be Snake Eyes. So I'm going to go down and find Snake Eyes and drop in a photo. Okay, the problem is my photos were a little bigger than this cell. And I don't really like how that fits. So I'm going to go to Edit and Undo. And let's just click out. See, that's how big the file should be. So let's take my type tool, click in the table, and let's squeeze this down. I can't really do it there. So I got to squeeze it over here. Okay, what I did is I made little 1-inch files, or about 1 inch. In fact, if I put that against a ruler, it's about 1.5 inches right there. Okay, so now let's see what this looks like. I'm going to click right up here. I want everything centered from left to right, centered from top to bottom. Okay, now I'm going to click, Command D, grab Snake Eyes. There we go. Click with my type tool. Click, Command D, and I want Wolverine. Let's go X-Men. There you go. Always take my type tool, click. I want to grab the picture of Cyclops. Command D, we'll grab Cyclops. And I'm going to keep doing this. Click, Command D, I want Rogue. Take my type tool, click, Command D, and I want Mr. Fantastic, who is Reed Richards. Okay, click with my type tool, Command D, I want Peter Parker, who is Spider-Man. So we'll just go with Spider-Man. There we go. Click, type tool, let's get these going here. Click, Command D, Wolverine. Click, click, Command D, Batman. Click the type, click in the cell, Command D for Thor. Click on the type tool, click in the cell, Command D for Daredevil. Click on the type, click in the cell, Command D for Moon Knight. And let's scroll down here, got last one. Click on the type tool, click in the cell, Command D, and we'll grab the Hulk. All right, so there we go. I'm going to click outside, and I don't really need to look at all these outlines here. So I'm going to hit W for preview. And there is my table layout. But I want it to look a little more exciting than this. I mean, these lines are just all plain. So I'm going to take my type tool. I'm going to click right up here in the upper left corner. And I'm going to go to Table and Table Options. I'm going to go to the table setup. Okay, right here, I'm going to turn on preview and let's do row strokes and column strokes. So I'll click there. Okay, alternating patterns. Here's what this means. If I look at a table, every cell and row is white box, white box, white box, white box. All the type just kind of blends together. So I'm going to take my type tool again, click on the upper left, table menu, table options, table setup. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave the border alone for now. I'm going to click on row strokes and turn on every other row. And let's just look at the weight. Notice how it's doing a thicker line on every other row. I don't want that. That's going to be confusing. I don't want that. Let's look at columns. I don't want it to alternate either every other column. No, I don't want that either. Okay, I'm going to go to fills. Alternating pattern every other row. So you can see how it's dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. So maybe the first row is filled with cyan, and that's going to be at 20%. Every other row will fill with yellow. And we'll drag that down to maybe 40%. Because it's a light color to begin with. I'll click OK, click outside, and now that looks a lot easier to read because I can focus row by row by row. I want these outlines and strokes to be a little thicker. So you'll notice when I click that, there is no stroke applied to this. Okay, it has to do with tables. Take my type tool, click the upper left corner, and now we'll go to table cell options, strokes and fills. All right, turn on my preview, and I want the weight well, the color of my strokes will be black. There'll be a single style line. I'm going to set the weight up to 2. And you can see when I hit the up arrow, all the strokes are getting thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker. Well, obviously that's too thick. So I'll bring that back down to maybe a 3. Oh, let's go with 4. And that's all I want. I'll click OK. There we go. Got a little more definition to it. What I tend to want to do is do a separate border. That way I have control over the border. Okay, I also want to make sure this row, these are my topics. So I'm going to click with my type tool, click right here on the edge, and I want to fill those with red. So I'm going to come to my swatches. I'm going to click on red for the fills, and I'm going to set the tint back to 100%. Like that. Cool, that looks good. I wish these topics stood out a little more. So I'm going to highlight the space between the words, delete and return, highlight the space, delete and return, highlight the space, delete and return. Now I can highlight all of this type in that row. Here's my font size. I'll hit the up arrow. We'll make those categories a little bigger. I have my type highlighted, so I'm going to go to the T for type on my swatches, go to the fill, and I'll fill them white. There we go. So they kind of stand out from the rest of the text. Good. These are the things I'm going to be reading about. Notice at any time, if this gets a little tight, I can always go to my type tool, hover over the edge, and just widen out that cell a little bit right there. There we go. I like that design so far. And I want to put a border around this. So what I would suggest is right here, I am going to lock this layer. Okay, we'll just double click there. I'll call that my table. And I will lock it. Then I'm going to create a separate layer called my border. Okay, with my rectangle tool right here, I'm just going to start right there on the corner. Click and drag all the way down to the opposite corner there. And now I'm going to go to my stroke option. That's a really thin stroke, so I'm going to keep hitting that up arrow until I get a nice, thick, bold border. I'll make it 30. Since I have a thick border, I can go with a double or triple outline right there. And I really don't like seeing that gap come right through my photos. So what I'm going to do with this is let's just check my stroke panel. Okay, I want the stroke to go outside the box, not inside. So click there, keep it outside so nothing runs over my photos. If I've got a thick border with a gap, I go to my stroke panel. I've got a gap color field right here, and I could also throw that in as red or yellow or whatever I want. I'll set it to blue. There we go. Okay, that's looking pretty cool. What I also want for this is a nice backdrop behind my scene, instead of just putting it on a big white sheet of paper. So I'm going to lock that layer called My Border. Those two are done. And wow, that layers panel is really long. Let's shrink that down there. I'll make one more layer, drag it to the bottom, and I'm going to double click the name and call that Backdrop Border. Okay, since I'm dealing with comic book characters, I'm just going to go out to Safari here. And let's pull that into view so you can see what I'm searching for right here. I will go to Google. I'm going to type in or click on images, and I'm just going to type in comic book characters collage. Something like that. Okay, just a bunch of characters. And I want something that's really going to fill this space. So I want to click on Tools, size large. And the only problem is I'm going to get a bunch of just Marvel or just DC, and I really want to represent everybody. So I'm going to type in comic book covers collage. See if I can get something a little more interesting here. I want to find something with a lot of covers in it. And let's go with, well, I think I'm going to be stuck with either Marvel or DC, so whatever. I'll go with this one right here. Well, let's go with that. Man, I really dig that. Okay, that's cool. I don't like this type, but I'll just blow up the photo to kind of get that type to run off the edge. I just like the colors on this. Control click. Open the image in a new tab, and it shows up right up here. Click to zoom in to the big image. And what I would do is download this to your desktop. I download it to the job folder that you're working on. Okay, I'm just going to drag it to my desktop for now. I can close this up, close all that up, click back here on InDesign, and now I've got a backdrop border layer. So I'm going to go to my rectangle frame tool, and I'll just draw a frame the size of the page. Right there. Okay, here's the other thing you can do. If you don't want a little bit extra border over here and a little bit less border up here, change the width of your page. Image menu, document setup. Instead of this being 18 inches wide, let's go 16 inches wide. Oh, dang, that was a good guess. Okay, that looks like a really clean border all the way around. Let's just select everything and just kind of center my table here visually with my arrow keys. That looks great. That is awesome. All right, let's lock that and go down to my backdrop border one more time. So I'll go to my rectangle frame, click and drag all the way from corner to corner. Command D for a document, and again I put mine out on the desktop, so I think that's it. No, that's Jason from Friday the 13th. Let's see, where is my document on my desktop? I have so much stuff on my desktop here. It should come up as a number. There we go. Yeah, not Friday the 13th. Okay, I'm going to open that, and it only comes into that corner. Okay, so right here with my black arrow, even though I can only see part of the photo, this is the entire picture frame. There's my content grabber. I can hold shift and drag this corner way out like that. Go on the content grabber and now push the image back up. Just about cutting off that type. So I'll hold shift and just drag the image a little bigger. Press and hold and push that up so I get the number 1000 out of view. And that looks good. There's a border. Now it kind of really messes with my table overall. So I can click with my black arrow and lower the opacity down just so I get a kind of ghosted image of comic books. But we're really meant to focus on the table. Okay, and the other thing I'm looking at is, what is this table about? I want a title for this table. Instead of just sticking it on the page and hoping people understand what I'm going for. So I need a little bit more room at the top for a title. File menu, document setup. Instead of it being 24 inches high, let's make it 27. There we go. Now I'm going to select everything. I'll unlock my layers, select everything, and push it all down to the bottom right there. I'll take this picture frame and move it back up. Okay, now I got that problem with the type. So I'm going to click on my content grabber. I see I have extra room for the image, so I'm just going to hit the up arrow and just kind of nudge that image up, but that is painfully slow. So let's just drag that image up. Oh almost cutting off that type. Hold shift to make my image even bigger. Move the image back up. There we go. We've cut off the type. That's all I wanted. Now I have room for a text frame. So I'm going to go to my type tool, click and drag, and I'm going to add a title here. Let's see, what do I want to call this? My top 10 comic titles. Hit Command A for select all. There is my font size, so I'll hit the up arrow. And I want this all in caps, so I'm going to highlight my top and type my top 10 comic titles. I can highlight that. I can center it. I can hit Command T for type. And let's give this a bold title here. So we'll go with impact. I always like impact. It's just easier to see on a demo like this. Easier to see on the screen. Now I'm going to keep blowing up that type. Nice and big there. I could stretch it vertically. Let's see what 150 looks like. Not too bad. All right, let's just pull this down. My top 10 comic titles. There is my table. Great. We're done. So your goal with doing this in my class is I want you to design your own table. Again, if you're in my class, you're going to see this in probably a Zoom video where I can show you examples. But in a tutorial like this, try it out with my photos. Try it out. See how it works. Play along with this video and see how table design is done. And then I want you to come up with 5 categories, okay? Pick a topic, like let's say baseball, or bands, okay? Your topic is bands. Now I want you to pick 5 things about each band, okay? The main singer, the drummer, the guitarist, the year they started, how many albums. And I want you to tell me 5 things about 10 different bands. Okay, it'll all make sense when you see examples of what other students have done. But the topic is going to be totally up to you. If it's sports teams, baseball. Great. I want 10 different baseball teams. Maybe you show each team's logo. And then you tell us 5 things about each and every team. Their city, what year they started, National League, American League, how many World Series titles, whatever, what city are they from? Whatever you want to tell me. But you will see examples, and your goal is learn from my table building process right here. And then once you understand that, come up with your own. I know it works because I did it. I want to see if you can make it work. And I know you can. You have the video to walk you through the process, okay? But that's how you build tables here in InDesign.